Welcome to the No BS Spiritual Book Club's live streaming interview series, where leading new thought teachers, speakers, and authors share the intimate stories behind the 10 best spiritual books that inspired them the most on their spiritual journey. From well-known classics to hidden gems you might never have heard of, the No BS Spiritual Book Club saves you time and money by sharing reliable recommendations from those who've walked the path before you. The No BS Spiritual Book Club, the only no BS guide to the best spiritual books to inspire your own journey of self-discovery. Here's your host, founder of the No BS Spiritual Book Club, Sandy Sedgbeer.
Hello and welcome. Joining me today to share her personal 10 best spiritual books is pioneering healer, author, podcaster, teacher, wizard, and the founder of Divine Empowerment, Antonia Harman, who's known for her transformative approach to trauma healing and her groundbreaking methods that dissolve trauma instantly and permanently, often in a single session. Antonia Harman, welcome.
Hi, everybody.
So, can you hear me okay?
I can hear you. Your face isn't moving, but I can hear you.
Oh, well, my face isn't moving. Well, I've never heard that one before. Okay, we don't need my face to move. We just need your beautiful
You're frozen.
face to move.
Your image is frozen. That's what's going on from my perspective.
Okay.
Oh, no, now you're alive.
Nothing is frozen from my end, apart from the entire country. Okay.
Great.
Right.
Hi.
So it looks as though we've actually got a connection now and we are streaming. So apologies
Is my
everybody
audio
for the late start.
Oh, dear. Let me just, everything should be working. Let me just double check that.
It's working as far as I'm concerned.
Is it good? Is it fine? Yeah, it should be fine. It looks like I'm all good from what I can see. Okay, cool. Hi, everybody.
Hi. Good. Okay. Right. Well, let's talk about what it was like for you to have to choose 10 books. I understand you regard it as no small feat.
Oh, goodness, there's just too many of them. I had to drop some really good books. I lost Graham Hancock along the way, which kind of upset me, but I thought these ones were more.
I bet he's most upset about that.
I was sad about it. I was like, Fingerprint of the Gods is amazing, but I don't have space for it. So I had to throw out that amazing book.
So what was your criteria?
The ones that impacted my work intrinsically. It's that I geek out on a lot of spiritual books all the time. I tend to listen to them via audio because I just can't retain things when I read them, but I'm better when I hear them. And I just constantly either have a podcast or a book playing. So I'm always studying, always researching, and a lot of the books have really influenced my journey and my healing work that I teach.
Okay, so let's dive straight into your book list. The first one is Source Field Investigations, The Hidden Science and Lost Civilizations Behind the 2012 Prophecies by David Wilcock, published in 2011. What was it about this book that you enjoyed so much?
It's the science of how the metaphysical stuff works. How does healing work? I was already a healer when I got into this book, but no one explained how everything worked and how everything pieced together. I ended up, one of the chapters talks about a pyramid. I think it was 72 or 73 degree angles on the pyramid. And I ended up building one of these little wooden pyramids with epoxy and ended up sitting in it. And that actually was really quite potent. I had to break it down because it made me do lally. But it's sort of the science of spirituality. And it was very... I like to be able to know the science of it because I can do a lot of things with energy and magic, but actually knowing how it all works is very important and fundamental to me.
So what did he say was actually working there with the pyramid? You're talking about, sacred geometry, I imagine.
It's to do with to make a pyramid work. So there are different angles on the different pyramids, and they do different things. If you have a lower edged one, like the ones in the Giza Plateau, they are actually more to do with I think it's one of them's weather, and it changes the weather in the region and makes the weather much calmer. And the higher ones are to do with healing. And it's spiritual evolution, but you have to make sure you don't have metal and wood. It's similar concept to an orgonite. You have to make sure that you either have all organic or all inorganic materials from it. So you either have to make it entirely out of metal or out of wood and epoxy, and not use metal nails or screws, because that it breaks the energy going around in it. And then you can put things in it, like if you put razor blades in it, then they actually sharpen. They can make diamonds go brighter. They can do all sorts of miraculous things. If people are on hallucinogens, it can sober people up. But the book opens talking about pyramids, and in Russia, they did these experiments with babies who were premature, and they were very worried about them. And then they were running out of the medication and put the medication inside the pyramid. And actually, those babies did a lot better. And then they ran out of medication entirely and just used pyramid saline solution, and the babies all were fine. So it was really interesting, the medicinal uses of it and how things work in pyramids in general. But yeah, that's only one bit of it, but it's the science of spirituality.
And yet it made you do Lally.
I'm downloading all the time with energy. It's a constant thing for me. So yeah, it was just extra intense, and I had to break it down, because I was downloading too much, and it was very overwhelming for my body.
So you wouldn't build one and put your clients in it?
Maybe it's good for clients, but they don't have the direct connection to the divine that I have, and I'm downloading magic all the time to get abilities. So I'm already supercharged, and it just made me exhausted because it was just that extra level on top. But for someone who's not me, it's probably quite useful.
Okay. The Biology of Belief, book number 2 by Bruce Lipton, published in 2005. Quite a game-changing book.
Yeah, it's about how belief is a very, very important thing within healing. And it's about, it's absolutely fascinating. It's about how beliefs change everything in your body, and about how it's thoughts that make the difference in how our brains work, and how everything is. It goes into detail about how cells are, like, we have this idea that the nucleus of the cell was the brain of the cell, and it's the nucleus that tells everything what to do. And it goes into detail about the cytoplasm, the skin around the outside, the shell around the outside of the cell, and it's really that which tells the cells what to do. And so he was doing experiments, I think in the 80s, where he was taking liver cells and putting them to a culture, like a petri dish, with like lung cells, and just moving them around. And you'd expect liver cells to continue to be liver cells, but when he moved them into lung cells, they became lung cells, because it's a cytoplasm which was controlling everything within the cells, which was completely revolutionary. And he's the father of epigenetics. So and then it's also about how our thoughts are affecting things. So it's the culture, it's what's going on around it, and how our hormones, so we had the stress hormones, and that can affect our cells, and how the whole of your body works a lot from your brain. Bruce Lipton's got some really interesting books, and he always uses the phrase about, if you give me a child until 7, I'll show you the man. It's like what we get in the very early stages of our life completely programs us for everything, all of our behaviors, all of our wellnesses, and how diseases come from thoughts largely.
So when did you,
so it's fascinating.
When in your career did you come across this book?
Oh, goodness, now you put me on the spot. Early on, I've been to some talks with Bruce Lipton as well. So I did that a long time ago. I went to a number of his talks, and I've read a number of his books. So when would I have gone to his talks? 2010. When did it come out? I think I got it quite early.
So you found them very inspirational for what you're doing now?
Yeah, because it's the science. I geek out on all of this sort of stuff. I want to understand how, I think emotions are the cause of disease. Belief in emotions cause disease, as far as I'm concerned, which I've got from a lot of
Yeah.
these different books. They all come to the same thing, which I found really interesting when I gathered this list. And I just went, oh my goodness, they all just talk about belief, and belief being the root cause of disease, but it all comes from different angles, which was absolutely fascinating.
Yeah, well, I think it's becoming quite accepted now that emotions and the energy from that are the cause of most of the problems. So many of your books are on a similar subject. Number 3 is Metaphysical Anatomy. Your body is talking. Are
That's
you
my
listening?
textbook. That's the one I refer to that all the time, by Yvette Rose. It's a wonderful, wonderful book that tells you what emotions cause each disease. And I've been using that as the textbook within Divine Empowerment for a long time, since it probably came out around then. So it's very, very useful. And it just tells you why we have these illnesses. And I've created something called my grand theory of disease and figured out how diseases work and what diseases are, having sort of worked with this book for a long time. But it's emotions that cause diseases, and they come in a gas, a liquid, and a solid. So gas-based diseases are thought-based diseases. So when you hang around somebody who's sad or angry or upset, you can feel it immediately. A depressed person can pull you down. A happy person can make you feel great. Then you've got, so anxiety and depression are all gas-based diseases that sort of hang around in the air around you. And then you've got a liquid-based disease, something like a backache or a cyst, which is a literal ball of fluid. And backache is about not feeling supported. So all of your thoughts, all of those gases around not feeling supported, all gather in your back to make you, when you have all those thoughts about not feeling supported, they all gather in your back, and that gives you the backache, because backache moves. It behaves like a fluid. Sometimes it's a 2 out of 10. Sometimes it's a 10 out of 10. Sometimes it moves up, down, left, right. It moves around the body. It behaves like a fluid. It comes in and out according to how your day has been often. And a cyst is a literal ball of fluid. So that's a liquid-based disease. Then you've got a solid-based disease, which is like a tumor. But all it is, to go from a gas to a liquid to a solid, the molecules slow down and cool down, and they get more and more compressed as you get stuck in a mindset of trauma for a long time. So this book sort of helped me form that, because because it just tells you the emotions behind everything, and it's emotions that cause disease. And I've also been able to use that work and delete a lot of different diseases by reading that textbook to people on whatever illness they've got, and then deleting the associated emotions. People's diseases often fall away from them. So that's a really useful book, and my textbook within Divine Empowerment.
So we'll talk about how you actually delete these diseases a little bit later, because that's quite interesting. So number 4
Yeah.
is The True Power of Water, Healing and Discovering Ourselves, Masaru Emoto, published in 2003.
That's snowflakes. That is basically what he did. Was he figured out how to make snowflakes, and you have to hyperfreeze water and then let it defrost a little bit, and then he photographed it, and then he wrote different words on bottles. So he used distilled water, which always makes the same sort of snowflakes, and wrote love and hate on the bottles, left it for 24 hours and photographed it. And amazingly, the snowflakes for positive words made absolutely uniform, gorgeous snowflakes, and the ones for negative words made horrible blobs. And just sort of, there was no structure to it, no symmetry to it. And how our emotions are really affecting us. The positive ones actually change the crystalline structure. And as our bodies are made from around 70% water, how is that affecting us physically by just the self-deprecating thoughts? It kind of goes back to the same thing. And then they did prayers for different water, and the waters would change. And then they've also do a thing where you write negative, like I have a jug of water and plants, and you write love on one of them and hate on the other one, and then water the plants with them, and the one that has hate withers and dies. It's just showing that the crystalline structure actually changes by the words said to it or written on it. And that's just crazy, just because we're made out of water so much. So how we talk to ourselves will affect us on a crystalline, energetic, and then physical level.
So tell me the impact that knowledge had on you.
It's wild. It's a picture book. It's just photographs of snowflakes. And it's just like beliefs, thoughts. They actually completely change your wellness in your body. I have a thing where I think happy people don't really get sick. It's unusual for people who are really happy to become ill. And I think it's because they have positive thoughts a lot of the time. And I think that changes your body. Or if you have negative thoughts, that changes your body. So often people get horrible diseases after they have a huge tragedy. And I think it's because they get fixated and stuck thinking about the horrible thing that happened. And then they get sick as a result of that. So the way we think, the way we talk to ourselves actually changes our body fundamentally. It's
Well,
wild.
that's certainly
And it's
a lot
proof
of
of it.
evidence.
It's like the physical proof of it. You're seeing it in a picture form. So there's no disputing it. It's amazing.
So you had a snowflake printed on your bank card.
My bank card has a snowflake for truth on it. Yeah. I did that years ago. And I probably should have put abundance on it, but I didn't. I put truth.
Inspired by this book?
Yes, absolutely. I took one of the pictures off the website from his book. Yeah.
And what have you noticed?
I don't know. Truth's coming out in the world now. It's taken a decade. There seems to be a lot of truth, and I think truth is really important. I'm very keen on the truth, and I refuse to lie. I'm not interested in that sort of stuff. I think it's authenticity is very, very important, and I think we're now coming into an age of authenticity. So I'm very happy about that.
Well, I think it's becoming very apparent to people, even if they don't know why they think someone's being authentic or inauthentic. There is an energy exchange going on that they're responding to.
Yeah, we're feeling it. You can
We're
feel it.
feeling
You
it.
can feel when someone's BSing you, you know?
Yeah, for sure. For sure. So book number 5, The Indoctrinated Brain, How to Successfully Fend Off the Global Attack on Your Mental Freedom by Michael Nels, 2023. This was published fairly recently.
This is an interesting one because it was talking about pre-traumatic stress disorder, because we're all familiar with post-traumatic stress disorder, but basically if you're told that your behavior is going to be causing trouble, like for example, we had all this stuff during COVID, which was saying if you don't take the jab, or if you go and see grandma, you're going to kill grandma. So everyone's watching the news and like, oh my God, I'm going to kill grandma. You haven't actually done anything. You've sat in your house, you're watching the news, but you get super stressed out about a potential, which hasn't happened in any way, or you're nowhere near the situation. And you can actually get pre-traumatic stress disorder from that. So you can actually traumatize yourself just thinking about the potential of something happening, not actually even doing it. And that actually shuts down people's brains and makes them not as smart.
Yeah.
And then they become indoctrinated, and it's easier. You know, fear it paralyzes you. It stops you from thinking clearly. And then you become more malleable and almost like a sheep, doing as you're told. And I think that they may have used, I think that the nefarious ones may have used that on purpose to try and manipulate people, and then they can't think as clearly. And I think some people's brains are not as clear as they used to be. And I think that it's stress and trauma, as well as various other things. But I think stress and trauma, it just stops your brain from working, because it's almost sort of, it compresses your thoughts. You've got less space in your mind to be thinking about different things. You've got less creativity, you've got less joy, because a lot of your mind space gets taken up with this stress. And then I delete traumas and stress. So I think that's really, really important to give people a clean blank slate. But I didn't realize that pre-traumatic stress disorder was a thing. And just worrying about something happening can actually make you not be able to think clearly, not be able to rationalize, to people who have got the, what do they call it? When their brains aren't working properly, like mine right now. When they, you can't talk to them, you can't communicate with them. They just go la la la. They just can't hear you.
Well, they can't compute.
They can't compute it. And actually, you're trying to have a sensible conversation with people, but if they've got a lot of stress, they just don't have the mind space to be able to comprehend new information. Yeah. And that's what that book talks about. It's really interesting.
great control mechanism. I mean, you look at children and people, you know, when they're telling a child off, you know, and they think that the child is listening to them. The child isn't listening to them because they're so paralyzed with fear, you know, at this big adult being angry with them, that, you know, the capacity to think has gone. And that's what's happening to lots of people. And there is a lot of fear-based information that is, you know, filling the world right now. Does he actually go into how people can free themselves of that?
I'm not sure because I can't remember. But the thing is, with a lot of the books, like even if they have different techniques, I have my own techniques. So I sort of, you know, cherry pick the things which are important to me within a book, and I can delete. So from that, I decided to create a new energy to delete all fear, which is what I can do now. Delete all, so you can do all the fear, because fear is the emotion that underpins all the emotions. So like grief, guilt, abandonment, whatever it is, if you sort of trace it back, it always goes back to fear, because you've got two master emotions, love and fear. So if you can delete all fear, then everything else, which then comes off it, dissipates, and then people can think clearly and their minds work, and they become a lot more loving, happy, kind. Fear prevents you from being kind, and kindness is very important to me.
Yeah. Number 6, psychedelics, the revolutionary drugs that could change your life. A guide from the expert by David Nutt, published again just last year.
I like Professor Nutt. He's very fascinating. He's written, that book is really interesting about how psychedelics work. It's about therapy and how psychedelics can work with therapy. One of the interesting things, which I thought was completely baffling in that book, was about how you actually have the same effect. You'd think that DMT, which is a drug that you smoke, which takes people into different dimensions immediately. Like I know, I have a friend of a friend who ended up living on a space station. It's about a minute or 3, but he ended up having this whole life on the space station. And then he came and he met an alien lady. They went on a few dates. They had a few kids, like taking the kids to school. He did about 20 years on a space station. And actually that was only in a couple of minutes. And then he came back and missed his wife. But then you're taking other ones, like, I don't know, magic mushrooms or something, and they don't feel as strong. And it's because you go from 0 to 100. The DMT takes you straight in, but actually if you took it at the same sort of rate, like if you smoked the magic mushrooms, or there was some way to administer it at the same rate, then they actually do exactly the same things. All of them, they do exactly the same things, which I thought was really interesting. But in terms of trauma therapy, this is one of the most important, the most futuristic thing people have at the moment, because I'm about to tell everybody that what we do is even more efficient, is psychedelics. People are using psychedelics to help with PTSD. It's really, really important, because people can actually start thinking about their situations, and with proper guidance, they can actually clear some of their traumas. And it's the leading research that they've got at the moment. I know Joe Rogan talks about it every podcast he's on, he talks about psychedelics for PTSD. And I know that RFK, who's coming in soon, Robert Kennedy, has said he's going to decriminalize psychedelics for the treatments of PTSD. And this book goes into how all the different drugs work, which is just fascinating, and how the treatment of traumas can be done with psychedelics.
Book number 7, The Body Keeps the Score. Brain, Mind and Body in the Healing of Trauma by Dr. Bessel van der Kolk. That was published in 2014. And that's very popular with healers.
Yes, 5 million readers worldwide. I was always told to read that book, and it wasn't until I saw a Chris Williamson podcast that I actually got around to reading it, because I started listening to this podcast. Oh, for God's sake, I'll just get the book. And I was so shocked how underserved people are with trauma. My whole MO is deleting emotional trauma. I delete the energy which holds emotion in place, and I totally delete emotional traumas in seconds. I'm doing a study deleting PTSD in 10,000 veterans, first responders, and military and domestic abuse survivors on deleteptsd.com. I started that study because of this book, because I went, holy moly, what you're using to delete traumas is very ineffective. And the stuff that I've been doing is very effective. So I thought I'd change the face of mental health by actually showing people what I can do and deleting the emotional resonance of the traumas. And then you just think about it again. It has no trigger to it. It has no resonance to it. And you don't care about that situation anymore. So that book has triggered me to start this study. So, because I just think they're so underserved, and I feel so bad for there are millions of people suffering, maybe billions, with all sorts of different traumas, and it's just awful. And I have the key to it, and so I got a big kick up the bum reading that book about really bringing this trauma work into the world, because the suffering is unnecessary, and I've got the keys.
How many
to the kingdom
people do you have enrolled in it?
And enrolled in I'm struggling to get people. Weirdly, and I'm doing it for free. I'm paying for the I'm paying for the study myself. I'm donating my time and efforts to it. I don't know, and I'm I'm very, very good at. I would say I'm the best trauma healer on the planet. And because I've invented an entirely new way of doing it. It's taken me 20 years, and I've invented something new. And I'm struggling to get people. So if anyone watching this wants to be part of the study, then please do join, because it will change your life, and it works. The emotional stuff, it's never not worked. It's worked every time I've ever done it. I can't promise it will always work. I can't give you a guarantee. If you want a guarantee, buy a washing machine. But it has worked every time I've done it for the last 20 years. So
just talk me through this. If somebody goes to the website and says, yes, I want to be part of this, this study, what happens?
They just need to enroll on the website. I'm doing either one-to-ones or I'm doing group healings for it. And then they just need to fill out a form. It's a standard government form from the US, from America. You just fill in this form and you sort of grade how your traumas are out of 5 and how you're feeling about it, write a little bit of information about it. Then I'm either doing one-to-ones or I'm doing group sessions to delete their PTSD. And all they need to do is to give a title to the situation. So I don't know, whatever this title is, something in Iraq, or my boyfriend hit me, or whatever the situation might be. And they just need to write the title. I don't need any more information than that. And then to grade it out of 10, how upsetting it is out of 10. Then they just play it like a movie montage in their minds, and I delete the emotional resonance of it. And it may take a couple of rounds, but it will always go down. Maybe it starts at a 10 and then it goes to a 7, then a 4, whatever it is. And we'll keep going till it's down to a 0. And then they'll think about it, and it will be an empty memory. It will be factual without an emotional charge. It will no longer affect your behavior, because a lot of the time, because people have had such horrible suffering, they end up knee-jerking, reacting in a certain way, and can be unkind to other people in their family, and they don't even notice that they're doing it. They just sort of go into a reactionary state, and that just goes. And the trauma, they think about it, and it doesn't affect them anymore. They're no longer haunted by it. Things like flashbacks finish, dreams finish, nightmares finish. And it just goes, and it goes really easily. And I've developed that. That's why I'm doing the study, because we need to change the face of mental health, because it's not working.
If this is, their subjective experience, what sort of, in order to get that study, if you reach 10,000 people, which is a lot of people, in order to get that credentialed or, validated in certain circles, what are they going to require from you? Is somebody's subjective opinion of what happened to them enough?
I don't know. But the thing is, the whole thing about PTSD is a subjective opinion. You just fill in these forms and say whether you've got it or whether you don't. But I'm looking for sponsorship for it. I'm looking for people who know how to write studies for it. I'm just starting to do the work because I just had the voice of God telling me to do it. So I'm doing as I'm told. I am potentially in talks with some quite senior people within the government. So I think I'll probably be working with them shortly.
Okay. Book number 8. Lovely book. The Physics of Miraculous Healing, How Emotion, Mind and Spirit Enable Unlimited Self-Healing by Joseph Selby, published this year.
Well, you recommended this book.
I did recommend this book. It's a very good book, yeah.
Yeah, that goes into belief, about how beliefs create diseases. It's absolutely fascinating. And I just still, I can't fathom how the people with multiple personality disorder, how that they can, he gives us this example about a person who has in one personality is blind and in another personality, which they switch to in a second, is sighted. And it's 1 billion neurons that switch on or off.
Yes.
How the hell is that? That just doesn't make any sense to me. And then people who have track marks from being a heroin addict, however, they've never taken heroin. So they switch between one personality and then suddenly scars, track marks, moles appear on their skin from one to another because they fully believe that they are in a personality who is an addict, having never taken the drug.
Yeah.
And then there are people who've got anaphylactic shock from things like orange juice. And that's completely wild that you can go, that you can change so quickly. And I actually spoke to Joseph and we were talking about potentially in one personality, a tumor appearing and disappearing in a second. And it's your full belief that makes those things happen. So if you can, I don't know how to do it. I'm working on belief, and that's what my new class was seeing if I could crack beliefs. Because if you can actually fully and completely delete a belief, you may be able to do instant healing. So that's where I'm sort of going with that.
Yeah, I mean, that's a fascinating subject, why people believe what they believe and how to get them to change their mind. It isn't easy, but I mean, belief is a powerful tool.
Well, also, there's a guy called Dr. Hammer, who's a German doctor, and he was saying that he thought that secondary cancers were because you're told that you've got cancer. So the very fact of being told that you've got cancer gives you cancer. So when they can say that the cancer's spread, it's actually a secondary cancer because often they're not very close to each other and it would have to sort of go across quite a long way within your body. But he thinks that they get them just being told cancer gives you cancer. Being told you've got cancer gives you another cancer.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a hypnotherapeutic suggestion, isn't it? Robert Dilts, who worked with Bandler and Grinder on NLP, his speciality of that subject was all around beliefs and how it affected people's health. And he had many, many stories in his book about people who heard the word cancer, thought it was being used about them, and developed it. And then when they found out it wasn't them, it disappeared.
I mean, it works even on a small level, which people can try at home. They've done sleep studies and they are looking at, they woke people up loads of times during the night and gave them very, very bad sleep for the night. And they said to them, make sure you wake up in the morning and say, I've had a great night's sleep, even if you had a terrible night's sleep, but just tell yourself, I've had a great night's sleep, I've had a great night's sleep, I've had a great night's sleep. And then the people who actually, but they'd had a bad night's sleep. And then they had another group who also had the bad night's sleep. And they sort of woke up and were thinking, oh, I've had a bad night's sleep. The people who actually told themselves they'd had a good night's sleep actually had the reactions and their body worked as well as if they had. And they did it the other way around. They had people who had a great night's sleep and told them to tell themselves that they had a bad night's sleep and they were groggy all day. Even sleep, you can just tell yourself, I had a good bad night's sleep, and that will affect how you are night's sleep day. So try it at home. It's an easy one to do and see how it affects you, and then see how belief can affect everything. What if you believe you can or you believe you can't, you're right.
You're right. Yeah, absolutely. Number 9, the spontaneous healing of belief, shattering the paradigm of false limits by Greg Braden. Have you spoken to Greg about your ideas?
No, I'd love to. How do I speak to Greg? Do you know him?
I don't. I mean, I know people who do, but I don't. But that's an interesting one. What did you learn from Greg's book?
It's all the same stuff. I'm always going into belief and how belief causes disease. I really realized that there was such a theme to the books that I've read, and I didn't really notice that before. But yeah, belief underpins disease. It's the same story, but it's just coming from a different angle, from a different author. It's amazing. But we just need to work on our beliefs and what if you believe you can, you believe you can't, you're right. That's the whole thing. And our beliefs will cause us to be poorly, or it will cause us to be brilliant. And we really just have to make decisions about what we want and the sort of life that we want. And if we get stuck thinking about horrible situations, then we can end up in trouble. And I mean, beliefs, you believe, I know that Bruce Lipton talks about this. If you believe that you're going to be getting a particular illness because you say that it's genetic and your mum had it, so you're going to get it. One of the interesting things is what is passed down is often the way that you think. So if there's loads of grief or guilt or whatever it is, but he says about genetic diseases versus hereditary diseases. Bruce does, and he says less than 2% of diseases are genetic, which are the ones who are actually born with, like dwarfism, for example, and the other ones are hereditary, and what's passed down is the way that you think, and then the way that you think is what causes your illnesses. So it's really, really going into how we're thinking and choosing our thoughts and actually taking some ownership and some responsibility for how we're thinking and actually how our lives are, because it really is our fault. A lot of these things, like if you're the CEO of your own life, and if it's not working out well for you, you need to change some things, and it starts with your thoughts.
Fire the CEO, yeah. Okay,
Fire the CEO, yes.
The last book is Joe Dispenza, Becoming Supernatural, published in 2017.
All the same stuff, all about beliefs. And he talks about, people developing illnesses because I know he talks, I think in that book, about a lady whose husband ended up committing very sick afterwards, and how, and then she got back to health, and she was meditating every day on positive thoughts and managed to get herself back from being very, very poorly. He does it. He's always, Joe Dispenza's amazing, and I'd love to work with him. But he gives people programs and meditations and mantras to be able to clear their beliefs, clear their thoughts, and just neutralize their thought patterns, which ends up deleting people's diseases. So it's really important. We do quite similar work, but I try to do it very quickly, and his is more sort of stable over time, whereas I just come in and whip things out of people. But it sort of shows you again how it works. And he's also using a lot of technology and scans and all these medical tools to actually show how when you change people's beliefs, you can actually help them get well, or they can actually heal themselves from all sorts of different illnesses. And there's loads of data and science in that book, which shows you all these different studies and all these different people who've managed to heal themselves from the most awful illnesses just by changing the way that they think and meditating. It's absolutely amazing.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And I think it's also one of the hardest things for people to do in many respects. To change a belief is, not an easy task. Tell me, this is your 10 books. We've gone through them all. Where did this journey start for you? What got you interested in this arena?
I ended up doing a healing on a friend of mine who had burst her eardrum 5 times. And she'd gone to the doctor, the specialist, and the surgeon. She was in absolutely excruciating pain, like she had a screwdriver stabbing herself in the head. And she was, there was £4,500 to have the surgery and a 50% chance it was going to work. She'd had ear, nose, and throat problems through her whole life. And I was walking down the street with her, she'd booked her surgery. They didn't really know what they were going to do in the surgery because they didn't really know what was wrong with her, but they were just going to do their best to help her. But they couldn't see anything particularly wrong with her, but obviously she had these pains. Anyway, walking down the street with her in Notting Hill, and then she starts screaming and falls to her knees and says, help me fix my ear. I said, how am I supposed to do that? She said, you're a healer now. I'd done a 5-day workshop and thought it was a total nonsense. And then I ended up taking to lose a restaurant, put my hands on her ears and channeling energy. And I started pulling out this thing that looked like a snake in heat waves. It was about 1.5 foot long. Did the other side, did both sides. And that was in 2007. She's never had earache or ear problems at all since. And it was an energetic parasite. And that changed the trajectory of my life.
Back up a bit.
Sorry?
You attended a 5-day teaching seminar on becoming a healer that you thought was rubbish.
Well, it was nothing to do with that. It just allowed me to open up because I've got healing abilities, you know, I've got gifts, and that just sort of allowed me to see that there were
Well,
gifts there. We hadn't covered ears. We'd barely done anything. But the idea had sort of seeded in my head, and then I did something which was completely above my pay
okay.
bracket.
So how did you know that you had healing abilities?
She was just screaming, and I just did what I could. It was very strange.
Believe
But
did you believe that you could do
sorry?
it, or were you doing it because
No,
you needed help?
no, it was innate. I just ended up doing it without really knowing what I was doing. I don't know. It was very strange. The whole situation was completely wild. And she was just screaming, and I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. She's like, just try and have, what am I supposed to do? And I just put my hands on her ears, and then I saw this little thing with like a snake's head poking out of her ears. I was like, I grabbed it and started feeding it out whilst I was channeling energy. It was completely bonkers.
So, and what do you put that down to? You said it was some kind of attack of some kind?
Energetic parasite.
Energetic.
Energetic parasite. It looked like a snake. Yeah. And that was causing her ear problems, earache.
And was that affecting her back?
Affecting her, sorry?
You said that she had a problem with her spine?
Not her spine, sorry, ears, nose, and throat. Nothing to do
Oh,
with her
okay.
back. But she felt like she was being, twice a week, she was being stabbed in the head with a screwdriver. It was absolutely excruciating. And she never had earache since. That was in 2007.
Okay. So was that the first time you've ever done that to somebody?
Yeah, that was a miracle.
What did you make of that?
What the hell? I was completely shocked, and I mean, I still can't get my head around it. And it's all those years ago. It was wild and miraculous and mind blowing, and I sort of changed the trajectory of my life. I ended up leaving. I was doing TV presenting and modeling, and I ended up going, this is more interesting, this is more important, and I completely changed direction and became a healer as a result of it.
So what trainings did you do?
I don't speak about that. We fell out. But I'm self-taught. Most of it I'm self-taught. I teach and I'm self-taught. I end up connecting directly with the divine and reading a lot of different books, but I spend a lot of my time in a trance state. I spent years not being able to get out of bed for days, weeks, months at a time, and having very, very bad body pains like delayed onset muscle soreness, and being completely bedridden. And completely, my brain wouldn't work at all. I was just fuzzy in the mind. But if there was something like my mum's birthday, I would have the energy to be able to go and do something like that. So it wasn't like a tiredness disease, because it would switch on and off if there was something important I needed to do. But I was bedridden for a very long time, years, awakening my energy system and developing superpowers. And now I've got loads of them, and I teach them.
You're very confident in what you can do. So tell me, what is it that you actually do?
Goodness. It all stems from deleting traumas and traumas causing different diseases. I have 100% success rate in that. So it's almost boring. That's when you're really good at something, is when it becomes boring. But it's so new and different to people that it's really profound to people. But my confidence comes from it just always working. So it's just, and I just go on.
How do you delete something? What do you
I do
actually
it by
do with
intention.
them? You do it
I just do it by intention. I ask them to think about the situation. I delete the associated emotions. And I was just filming a TV show. I've just filmed a TV show called The Healing Revolution, which is going to be out maybe December or January. And I was live on stage with a live studio audience, and I was deleting people's traumas and diseases. Well, it was really interesting. We did lots of people's traumas, but then we had somebody who had backache, and that went. We had somebody who had ADHD, and that went when we were on stage. She was absolutely shocked that she was like, where's my ADHD gone? I've been on medication for 6 years and her ADHD completely vanished, and everyone's traumas completely vanished. We did somebody who had loads of grief. So when you get stuck in grief, the emotion gathers in your grief gathers in your lungs. And I said, how's your breath? Because she had a lot of grief. And we asked her to breathe out, breathe in, and then hold her breath. And she was able to hold her breath for 24 seconds. And then we deleted the grief in her lungs. I had my team helping me. And then she was, within a couple of minutes, able to hold her breath for 52 seconds. So more than double within a couple of minutes, because we removed the grief, which was taking up space in her lungs. That was pretty fun.
So you said you had your team with you. Tell me about your team.
I've got loads of students. I've got loads of students all over the world. But I've got my top level. So I teach all these different classes. I've got 16. And some of the people from my top level came and helped. We had six of us in total, and they were backing me up with the energy, and they were being interviewed about some of their experiences. One of them's a doctor. The energy work so that I could talk on stage. And then we were doing it together to just speed things up. And they have the abilities that I have, apart from they can't learn new stuff, but they can do the things that I can do.
So what is your goal?
My goal? Well, do you know what? I've got weird, lofty goals, me. I reckon I want to teach everyone how to dissolve traumas. So I have this idea that hurt people hurt people. I think everybody is aware of that. I want to teach everyone how to dissolve traumas, because I reckon we could have world peace if everyone dissolved their traumas, because only hurt people hurt people. So my goals are world peace. I know that's crazy, but I also I want to start working with. It's lovely, but I want to start working with the new administration coming in, because they are starting to think about psychedelics for the treatment of PTSD, and I can treat PTSD without the need for psychedelics. So I want to start working with the new administration, who are excited about using. They want to work with veterans, and a number of them, JD Vance and Tulsi Gabbard, are actually veterans themselves, and I want to help them with PTSD. I want to start working with them and work on a large scale with the PTSD. My TV show we've just filmed was absolutely amazing. So I think I want to take that one on the road and start doing theatre shows of deleting traumas and loads of people. I think we're going to end up selling that show to quite a few big networks. It was really, really profound, because we were deleting traumas and performing miracles live on stage. It was mind-blowing, and everyone sort of came away and went, oh my goodness, that's really exciting. So clips. Go on.
Do you do follow-up interviews with the people who come on stage, to see how they're doing a month or 3 months later?
Well, we've only just filmed it, so no, it was last week. I've only just got here. We can do. The emotional stuff has never come back, as I said, and I've checked in on that loads of times. And I mean, the first time I deleted someone's depression who was suicidal, I was checking in on her every day, and then she told me not to, and then it was every week, and then every month, and that was about 15 years ago. So the emotional stuff has never come back. We will probably check in with them for future episodes, but we didn't yet, because it's only been a week.
Do you find it difficult to do it on yourself?
No, dead easy.
No?
Yeah, but I've had to do all the stuff on myself and delete all my emotions and traumas and things. But then things don't stick to me in the same way, because my vibration's really high. I get bored of my own BS really quickly. And even if I do end up in some sort of pity party about something, I just laugh at myself very quickly. And so it doesn't really stick to me. I find a lot of humor, gallows humor in different situations.
How do you teach other people to do this?
My website, divineempowerment.com, has videos on it, and you can watch the videos and get superpowers from watching the videos. And if you want to do level 1, you can use the code MAGIC, just MAGIC, and you will get level 1 for £75 rather than 333. And you can literally just watch videos and in your pajamas and get superpowers, and you can learn how to dissolve traumas right from level 1. You watch videos. So the top level I teach live, and everything else is pre-recorded videos, so people can do it in the comfort of their homes. I ended up having to do it that way around, because I've got people all over the world, and time zones are very awkward. And then I just ended up making so many levels that I never had any time to myself, and I only teach it once. So people like to get to the top level and be in a live class with me.
So do you certify people in this, in your method? You do. Do you
Yes.
certify just the
Yeah.
people that you're hands-on teaching? I mean, not anybody who goes
No.
and watches a video can get certified.
They have to send a video to me of them doing a healing for the certification to be valid. So they can do it via video, and then they have to send. They've got a list of what needs doing, and then they just they have to do a healing on somebody and send me a video of them doing a healing on someone. Then I have to watch it and then make sure that they actually know what they're doing. The energy always works because it just works because I awaken abilities within people. Because enlightenment is a losing game. You lose the parts of you which are not enlightened. So I just unlock people's energy systems. These things are within people. They're just locked away tight. So I remove things in people. So the energy works every single time. The only issues that people have is their lighting's not very good. Their sound's not very good. They need to adjust a bit smarter. That sort of stuff. That's the only thing I've ever had as a problem with the certification. It's just, making sure those superficial things are correct.
Where is your TV series going to be broadcast? In
Good
England
question. Don't
or
know.
the USA?
We don't know yet. We don't know yet, but I think it might be taken by some pretty big networks. Everyone's very excited about it. We're not sure. We're looking for placement on it. We had a channel and the channel's come off air, but they are relaunching in January. Don't know. It will definitely be there. But if anyone wants information on it, if you go to the healingrevolution.tv, that's got the teaser for it and all the information of it. When we have that, we don't know that yet, and we're going to put up pictures from behind the scenes shortly as well. So just check out the healingrevolution.tv and you will find out as we find out. But it looks like we might be able to sell it to some quite major networks, both here and abroad.
I love your enthusiasm and I love your confidence.
I'm very alive.
Tell me what you were like before this.
I don't know. I've always been, I don't know, I've always been pretty outgoing. Actually, do you know what? I used to have much more of a monkey mind. I have a quiet mind now. I think that the monkey mind, the self-deprecating thoughts, which most people have, does make you insecure and does make you doubt yourself. I don't have a monkey mind. My monkey mind switched off 15, 20 years ago. So I don't have all those naysayers in my mind, and I'm very determined. I figure out ways to do things, ways to fix different illnesses, and ways to get things achieved. And I'm relentless. I believe in pester power, and I'm utterly relentless until I achieve the goals. And I'm a workhorse. So
What do you think when it comes to conditions, diseases, whatever you want to call them? What do you think is going to be your biggest challenge?
My biggest challenge?
Yeah.
It's what the biggest challenge I've had so far, and the reason I've done a TV show with live healing on stage is because it sounds too good to be true. It sounds like I'm talking utter tosh, which is a problem. So then I'm like, just let me show you, which is why I'm also doing these testimonials. So the people in the Delete PTSD study, we're all video. I'm not charging them, but they are going to be videoed, and they have to talk before and after, and we have to do check-ins, especially with PTSD. That's a very important thing to be doing check-ins on, making sure that people are okay a week and a month later, because that can be a very serious situation for sure. And so I need lots of testimonials from people as I demonstrate and show people, and then them saying, oh my goodness, this has worked. And I just need to get more and more and more testimonials so people actually realize, because it's a paradigm shift. What I'm doing is so futuristic that people can't get their heads around it. It's 5D healing, future of healing, and it's completely light years apart from anything else, that it sounds too good to be true. So that's been my biggest challenge, which I'm a victim of my own success, which is a great problem to have. But I'm working around it now.
I have just finished, just before this show with you, I was doing a show with Cynthia Sue Larson, who's the author of Reality Shifts and the Mandela Effect and Quantum Jump.
Sue Larson.
Cynthia
I know her. I've emailed her before. Yeah.
And Cynthia Sue's latest book, I mean, it's given, there's so much happening with quantum science now, the research, and we are beginning to learn so much about what we have access to.
She
So
quantum jumped. I remember in one of her books, she quantum jumped and could play the drums in one. Like, do you remember
she
that
can do
situation? That was so wild.
she can do all kinds of things, and so can we. So we're out of time now, but I want to wish you lots of luck. I love the fact that you're going for it, and keep at
And I've
it.
also got my own book. I have my own book as well, by the way.
And we didn't get a chance
If
to
anyone's
talk about
interested.
that. But Energy Secrets, yes.
Never mind.
Antonia, thank you for being with us today. Thank you for sharing your 10 best list of inspirational books with the No BS Spiritual Book Club. Good luck with everything.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Sandy. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. You can learn more about Antonia Harman's book, her private sessions, online courses, etc. at divineempowerment.com. That's it for this week. I'm Sandy Sedgbeer. I'll be back at the same time next week with another 10 best interview for the No BS Spiritual Book Club. Till then, it's goodbye from me. Thank you, Antonia.
Thank you.